Good afternoon, everybody. It's June the 19th, 2016, and welcome back to Bill Bing's Trumpet Talk. Today, I wanted to talk a little about finding your voice in the world of jazz. And I'm referring to jazz in this way as someone that improvises, not necessarily someone who plays big band jazz or lead trumpet, but someone more specifically that likes to improvise. And that's sort of my definition of what a jazz musician really is. So, in the world of jazz, I've been trying to find my voice for many, many years. I've been listening to the greats Louis Armstrong, Freddie Hubbard, Clifford Brown, oh my, Chet Baker, uh, Lee Morgan, Woody Shaw. There's so many great jazz artists that I've listened to over the years, some in person and some on recordings. Dizzy Gillespie, I got to hear in person. I actually got to hear Miles Davis in person once, and that was pretty exciting. So all these different jazz musicians have had influences on me, but I've never really, until maybe just recently, discovered what I think my voice in the world of jazz might be. And it's much more laid back. As a classical player, one has to try to find purity of sound. And that's what I've done all my life in the classical world. And in the jazz world, it's really your sound is really defines you, I think, as much as anything. So also in the classical world, I remember listening to the Chicago Symphony when they had Herseth there and that great brass section, and you could tell in a second. And also, if you listen to the old Boston Symphony recordings, that's when I was doing a lot of my listening. You could tell the Boston Symphony section, and now it's pretty clear if you hear the LA Phil, a group I'm very familiar with because I live in Los Angeles. So, in the world of jazz, getting back to jazz, uh, speaking of jazz, let's get to Wynton Marsalis because, as much as anybody, he's been someone that can play and do beautifully at the highest level in both classical and jazz, which is really kind of unusual. In any case, my world of jazz and improvising has come down to more of this kind of a sound, more of an introspective sound. It's quite different from the jazz or classical, etc. So my world in jazz now is more defined than it used to be. I pick songs that fit my style. I love Sidewinder, but I don't do so good on that. I do Red Clay, and it's not my tune. I'm more of a standards kind of a guy, and I love that last tune, which is kind of an unusual jazz tune, and some of you may know it. I believe it was written by a trumpet player and named after a trumpet player. So it's one worth looking into. It's a great tune with some wonderful changes, and it sounds a lot like Body and Soul, but it's not Body and Soul. In any case, find your voice in the world of jazz and be comfortable with it, and you'll find that you are able to make progress in ways that you haven't before. Of course, play the solos of Woody Shaw and transcribe the solos of Clifford Brown. You can't listen to enough of Louis Armstrong. And some of the great jazz artists of today who are carrying that tradition along. It's wonderful the way you have these great artists today who are playing in the world jazz, improvising and writing tunes that carry on the tradition and move it forward. And those are great artists to listen to as well. There's so many of them. Don't even want to begin to mention names because I'll probably leave somebody out who's a good friend of mine. In any case, start listening to jazz if you haven't already. Listen to the great improvisers. It's my feeling that every classical trumpet player, musician should study some jazz. In college, you should be required to take a semester or whatever with the jazz trumpet teacher. And likewise, the jazz musician trumpet player should be required to take at least one semester with the classical trumpet teacher. I think it helps both worlds, whatever one you decide to play in, or both, if you like them both, as I do. Okay, that's enough for today. So go out there and play some jazz and find your own voice, whether it's jazz or classical. It'll make you a happier musician once you begin to discover yourself and your sound. That's it. Take care. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.